This is my final presentation for Fall 2021 ED-LLC 505 Applied Linguistics with Dr. Claudia Peralta. I've really enjoyed the opportunity that I've had during this course to put myself in the shoes of my emergent bilingual students and understand more about second language acquisition. It was intriguing to be able to study the difference between learned and acquired language and analyze the ways that I, as a teacher, as an educator, can improve my teaching methods in order to better cater to the needs of not only all of my students, but specifically my emergent bilingual students. So I want to start off with a little bit of background information, a bit of an introduction about myself. My name is Ashley Pulleiro, but my students call me Señora Parada because that's my married name. I just recently graduated from Brigham Young University, Idaho in July of 2020, and I started working at Wood River Middle School shortly after in August of 2020. So last year I taught 6th and 7th grade Spanish dual immersion classes, and this year I am teaching 7th and 8th grade. So I have all of my students from last year, which has been so fun. I currently teach 3 sections of 7th grade Spanish dual immersion and 2 sections of 8th grade Spanish dual immersion. So at Wood River Middle School in Haley, Idaho, there is a school population of roughly 600 students, 93 of which are emergent bilingual students. So 195 of the 600 students also speak Spanish at home. So I actually teach a total of 137 students in the 5 sections of Spanish that I teach. 110 of those students are of Hispanic descent, so about 80% of my students are Latinos. The 27 Anglo students that I also teach have been in the dual immersion program since kindergarten. So we currently have a dual immersion elementary school that allows students to learn Spanish at a young age, starting in kindergarten. And honestly, it is so impressive to see the level that many of my Anglo students have been able to achieve just by learning Spanish at school. At Wood River Middle School, world language classes are also considered core classes. So even the students that were not in the dual immersion program are required to take a foreign language class. So they have the option to take either Spanish or French. And so there are traditional Spanish and French courses. I don't teach the traditional track. I teach the more advanced Spanish dual immersion classes like I previously mentioned. I also wanted to note that out of my 137 students, 18 are considered emergent bilinguals. And my class sizes this year are extremely large. So my smallest class is 26 students and my largest is 29. And so really the classroom setup that I have was largely decided based on my largest class size. So I have 30 desks in my room, and it is possible that I will receive another student this year and that my class size may go up to 30. So I added an extra desk just to make sure. So my classroom setup, like I said, was largely decided based on my largest class size. It is definitely a tight fit, but we make it work. At the front of the room are the whiteboards, the projector, the daily objectives, and the assignments that are due that week. My desk is in the front corner of the room. I also have all the flags from all the Spanish-speaking countries at the front of the room. And I also have some maps of South and Central America at the back of the room. I currently teach students from Mexico, Peru, Honduras, Guatemala, and Costa Rica. So my dad is actually from Argentina, and my husband is from Chile. So I have always enjoyed celebrating cultures and diversity of different countries. So it is so exciting when I get to connect with my students about where they're from and learn more about their heritage. So at Wood River Middle School, this year we adopted an interesting block schedule. So Mondays and Wednesdays are called A days, and we teach periods 1 through 4. and they are 84-minute blocks. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays are called B days, and we teach periods 5 through 8. And period 8 is called advisory, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. Fridays are C days, so on Fridays the classes are shorter and we teach all 7 periods, so we do not have advisory on Fridays. Another really awesome thing that we adopted last year is what is called Dear Time. So it's this time every morning, Monday through Thursday, where we literally drop everything and read. That's what it stands for. So it's 24 minutes of uninterrupted reading time at the beginning of every day, or Monday through Thursday. We start school at 8:30, so from 8:30 to 8:54, all students and staff are reading a book for 24 uninterrupted minutes. It's an awesome way to promote literacy, and it's allowed our students to find books that really grab their attention and interest them, including our emergent bilingual students. We also have an awesome section of Spanish books in the library. It's super extensive, and students have been able to check out books in Spanish and also progress in their Spanish literacy. So my personal schedule is the following. I first have my prep, then I teach a section of Spanish 4A, which is 7th grade. I have 26 students in that class and 2 ELLs. Third period, I teach Spanish 4B, which is the 8th grade section, the 8th grade level of Spanish. I have 29 students in that class and 2 of them are ELLs. Then I teach another section of Spanish 4A for 4th period, which is that 7th grade section. Again, I have 26 students in this class. 4 of them are ELLs and 3 of them are newcomers. 3 of the 4 are newcomers this year. So that has been super exciting. 5th period, I teach my last section of Spanish 4A. This class has 27 students and 8 ELLs. My 6th period is another prep, and then 7th period, I teach Spanish 4B, which again is 8th grade Spanish, and that class also has 29 students and 2 ELLs. Then, like I said earlier, there's that 8th period, which is advisory, so I additionally have 16 other students that I help in that class. We do grade checks, we talk about life skills, we do a lot of social emotional learning in that class. So apart from the 137 students I have these additional 16 students that I help throughout the week. So like I previously mentioned, I have 18 emergent bilingual students in my classroom. 3 of them are newcomers, and those 3 arrived within the past 4 months. So they took the WIDA screener at the beginning of the year, and they received an overall score between 1.0 and 1.5. The other 15 emergent multilinguals have access scores from last year, ranging between 1.5 and 3.9. The average score among this group is a 3.32. And several of these students have been considered ELLs since kindergarten, and they have yet to exit the program. So every day when my students enter my classroom, they immediately go to the back of the room and they grab their composition notebook from their periods cubby. They then sit down and they begin to answer La Pregunta del Día. This is just a question that's topic varies from day to day. Sometimes I'll show them a video and they have to answer a comprehension question, or sometimes I will ask them a personal question. Sometimes they'll just complete a grammar exercise on a concept that we are currently learning. And then for the activities, I like to include different activities that require the use of all 4 language skills: listening, speaking, writing, and reading. But I also include an aspect of culture. Every unit will focus on a different country, so I will usually include an aspect from that country. For example, right now in my 7th grade course, we are learning about Colombia. So we've been talking a lot about different aspects of culture in Colombia. And then occasionally we will explicitly focus on a grammar concept, but my students will always practice using it in context. Because they're at such a high level, we do learn a lot of grammar in context because they already know a lot and they already understand a lot. But there are those times where we explicitly focus on a concept and I teach them in detail how to get a certain conjugation of a verb or what a certain part of a sentence is and how we use it specifically. So we also do that. So right here, this is just an example of what my students see when they come into my classroom every day. So the date is always at the top, then the pregunta del día, the daily objective, and the daily activities. I like for my students to know what we're going to do each day and what I expect of them. So the group dynamics really vary from period to period, starting with my 7th grade classes. My 5th period class is more low level. All of my students with IEPs are actually in this period, and I have 8 ELLs also in this class. So they tend to need more time to complete class activities and projects. I also have students in this class who require additional support and time to complete assignments and assessments. So although this is a 7th grade level class, I actually have several 8th graders that were placed in this period because of scheduling and other reasons. And so it's really interesting to see the dynamic between 7th and 8th graders in the same classroom. And then overall, my 2nd and 4th period classes perform at a higher level. My students participate more and they are easily engaged. And so there's a very big difference between my 5th period class and those other 2 sections of Spanish 4A that I teach. Moving on to my 8th grade class, my 3rd period students perform extremely well, but they are pretty quiet and they don't tend to voluntarily participate. But on the other hand, my 7th period students also perform exceptionally well, but they are so fun and so engaged at all times, and they love to participate and receive feedback in order to improve. And so it's also very interesting to see the difference between group dynamics between my 3rd and my 7th period class, because they are all so capable and they show really high levels of learning and Spanish, but the way that they participate and the way that they're engaged is just so different. So at our school, we have a principal and a vice principal, and they are actually both new to their positions this year. They have several roles, including training, supervising, motivating faculty, including teachers, secretaries, counselors, parapros, janitors, the social worker. They also perform observations on staff and they complete our evaluations. They attend meetings regularly. They also oversee sporting events at the school. Our administrators also work on different committees and they contribute to policy and planning. So they also additionally hire staff. They create our new schedules for each year. They manage budgets. And recently, our new vice principal implemented a new PBIS reward system called Way to Go Wolverine, because Wolverine is our mascot. And this system motivates students to go out of their way to be respectful, responsible, and ready to learn, which are our school-wide expectations. You can see those here on the right. And students are given little reward tickets, and then they are entered for a drawing every 2 weeks for a raffle. And it really motivates them to do kind things and to be kind to their peers and to their teachers and very respectful. I honestly consider our administrators to be very present, and I truly feel supported by them. So at Wood River Middle School, there are very strong school, family, and community relationships. A few examples of how the school and community work together are the following. So the Blaine County Education Foundation has actually provided private tutoring funds and school supplies to students who need assistance. The funds are provided by generous members of our community, and I actually had the opportunity to work for the Blaine County Education Foundation last year as a tutor, and I was able to tutor over 10 Hispanic students. Most of them were considered ELLs, and help them with reading and math and writing. And I was able to do this thanks to the funds that community members graciously donate. The Sun Valley Music Festival collaborates with our school music programs to provide access to additional performance and instructional opportunities outside of school hours. The Sun Valley Museum of Art is also an organization that does similar things within the schools. The Hunger Coalition provides snacks for students. They are a nonprofit organization that helps families in our valley that are in need. And so, like I said, they provide snacks for our students to access during the day at school. We just recently, a couple months ago, did a huge food drive for the Hunger Coalition, which was such a great opportunity to just unite as a school. The Space is an after-school program that services our students and ensures that they have access to free tutoring, which is so awesome. They have snacks there, they have games, and just more activities for students to do after school. Honestly, these are only a few examples of the many relationships that our school has with community members and organizations. Additionally, Hispanic families have access to translators if needed during parent-teacher conferences and other encounters that they may have in our school. There are also English classes that are offered throughout the Wood River Valley at our local libraries and our local community college. We also have a bilingual secretary at our school, a bilingual counselor, and a bilingual paraprofessional, and of course, the 5 teachers who work in the World Language Department all speak Spanish as well. So our school and families really have strong communication, and families know who to talk to when they need assistance. Our school social worker also provides assistance and support to families in need. So because I'm a Spanish teacher, I don't have the opportunity to see my emergent bilingual students actually learn English, but I am blessed to be able to watch them progress in their Spanish literacy. So I decided to focus on 2 students who are learning Spanish as a second language and 1 student who speaks Spanish as her primary language for my 3 concrete examples. But for the first example, I chose to feature a speaking example. This student is a 7th grader. Whose primary language is English. She's also a GATE student and does exceptionally well when it comes to writing, reading, and listening, but speaking tends to be a little bit more of a challenge for her. So I asked her a few questions and we just had a casual conversation. After asking her the first question, ¿Qué hiciste ayer? What did you do yesterday? She answered, Ayer fui a la clase de matemáticas y luego fue a ciencias y finalmente fue a advisory. So luego was meant to be the word luego, so it was orthographically incorrect. It seemed like she got the sounds mixed up. She correctly said, I went, yo fui, the first time, but then said fue instead of fui the next 2 times. This is a morphological error because she's using the wrong verb conjugation in the past tense. But she got it right the first time. I'm not sure what happened those other 2 times. I then asked her, ¿Y cuando llegaste a tu casa, qué hiciste? And when you got home, what did you do? She answered, Yo mira televisión e hizo algunas tareas de inglés. Again, she used the wrong conjugation for the word mira. It should have been mire. And for the word hizo, which should have been hice. So just some conjugation errors there. Then I asked her, ¿Y hoy qué vas a hacer cuando llegues a tu casa? And today, what will you do when you get home? She responded, Creo que voy a hacer unas más tareas y leer. So the placement of the word más should have been after the word tareas, which means homework, rather than before it. But in English, it would have been more homework, which is what she directly translated. She also used the verb ser instead of hacer, because if you look at the word a and ser and put them together, it sounds like the verb that she wanted, which is hacer, one word together. I then asked her, ¿Qué tipos de libros te gustan? What types of books do you like? She had an error with gender and noun agreement in her answer. She said el ficción histórica when it should have been la ficción histórica because it's a feminine noun. And then she told me about her favorite book. She forgot to put the feminine article before guerra, and she said en campamentos instead of campamentos. But overall, what she said was very understandable, aside from a few morphological errors. For the second concrete example, I chose to include a written sample of one of my 8th graders' work. This student has Mexican parents and she speaks Spanish at home. She has a very high level of Spanish, but there are still some evident errors in this example. First of all, there's an orthographic error. The word bisabuelita, which means great-grandmother, was spelled with a V instead of a B. This is a really common mistake because of the fact that the V and the B in Spanish both make the B sound. So it was spelt phonetically correct, but the word should actually be spelt bisabuelita with a B. Another orthographical error that was made was with the word cuando, which means when. In this instance, my student used an accent mark. Which was not necessary. Cuando only needs an accent mark when it's used as an interrogative adverb or as a question word, which is not the case in this sentence. There is also a morphological error present in one of the verbs that she used. The student wrote cuando está chiquita instead of cuando estaba chiquita. What she wrote says when she is small instead of when I was small. I honestly think that this was just a spelling error, but that she was writing really quickly and forgot to add the last 2 letters. But what she wrote changes the meaning of the sentence completely. But overall, her writing sample was written quite well. For the third concrete example, I decided to feature a writing sample from one of my Anglo 7th grade students. So this student has been in the dual immersion program since she was in kindergarten. Overall, the syntax is correct, but there are some errors in gender and noun agreement and correct verb usage. First off, there are some morphological errors. For example, la hotel should have been el hotel. There is a problem with gender and noun agreement, which is a common mistake when learning Spanish, because English just uses the, while Spanish classifies its nouns as feminine or masculine using la or el. Another mistake she made was saying eran 6 piscinas instead of tenía or había 6 piscinas. She did a literal translation, which does not work in this case. She wanted to say there were 6 swimming pools in the resort that we stayed at, in the hotel we stayed at. But in Spanish, you have to use a different verb in order to express that. You can use the verb tener and say tenía 6 piscinas, the hotel had 6 pools, or you can use the verb haber and say había 6 piscinas, there were 6 pools. I think she got confused with the meaning and the usage of the verb eran, which comes from the verb ser and would not be used in this case. She also used the verb habían with an N at the end instead of había, which is a very common mistake. We always have to use the singular form of this verb, even if what comes after it is a plural noun. So you have to use había clases diferentes instead of habían clases diferentes. Even native Spanish speakers will use habían in front of a plural noun when the correct way is to use the singular verb. It's a really strange rule, but it is correct, and she made that mistake. So honestly, this semester has been such a learning experience for me in every way. I've learned more about my emergent bilingual students. I've also come to understand more about the second language acquisition process and how I can help both my emergent bilingual students and my Anglo students progress in their Spanish capabilities. I know that I will continue to use all the tools and all the resources that I discovered this semester in both ED-LLC 505 with Dr. Peralta and in ED-LLC 501 with Dr. Booth for the rest of my career. I'm positive that I will be using those skills and resources and tools that I was taught. I'm so grateful for the Redo project. I feel like I have learned so much up until this point, and I'm so excited to continue increasing in knowledge and skills in the coming semesters. Thank you so much for listening and watching my presentation. Happy holidays. Que pasen unas felices fiestas. Adiós.